Yeah, no, but you do raise some very good points with what you were kind of talking about before, because I think base wise with this book, I feel like this guy, does take for granted the idea that within a capitalist system, there's competition, there's the fight for profit within a society. But I think he just stops right before the line, before he starts kind of critiquing this idea. He's basically just coming from the idea of, hey, I've noticed these set of ideas that um, where we keep on being told again and again and again that people are self-interested. I've seen these actors within this market system where they act disinterested and they are far more successful. Let's analyze that. Like, what's the reason behind that? But I think he just stops before your criticisms of what you just talked about, which is probably really interesting talking points. Because if you accept the idea that people are just self-interested actors within an economy, um, well, actors within that economy get away with some very bad behavior. And again, I'm going to be bringing up Mariana Mazzucato, but this is a very interesting point that she makes in her book. In The Value of Everything, she talks about in quite detail about Milton Friedman and
Mm,
his ideas of maximizing shareholder value. And the thing is, when you analyze it, like, what happened leading up to the 2008 crisis, global financial crisis, and afterwards, CEOs, private equity firms, venture capitalist firms, they were getting away with very bad behavior, and that
mm,
all stemmed from, I guess this misplaced trust in self-interest pushing those economies.
mm,
And
mm,
yeah, he like actually it gets to the point where Mariana is describing this situation that because markets as well as companies want to drive up their earnings per share. So basically, the prices of their share, because price dictates value and value dictates price within that speculative
mm,
scenario. Because they want to basically raise the earnings per share. The companies do some very bad behavior, including the
mm,
CEOs, where because they're kind of buying back shares and increasing their prices instead of, say, for example, um, looking into research and development and like new technology for their company. Um, but basically, the actors within the company are incentivized to do, well, not necessarily bad things with their money, but very questionable things. And
mm,
at the end of the day, the managers or the CEO in this case, for example, if the CEO loses his job, well, his or her job, they've got this thing called a golden parachute. So basically, what it is it's a payout because you lost your job. It's like
yeah.
stuff like that. And
Mm,
that's what's very interesting about, say, for example, agency theory. So, just shortly for people, agency theory is the idea that, well, shareholders or the principals, they actually don't know what's going on in a company, what the managers do. So we all have to maximize shareholder value. But what that's actually done progressively within society is because shareholders want the most out of their shares within a company, and
mm,
because managers want to raise the earnings per share, it's increasingly forced this short-termist idea onto everything. And CEOs' tenure within companies has decreased, earnings per share has gone up. Like they were saying that in I think it was the 1970s, the stat of I forget what the specific term is called, but it's basically how often within a year a company, on average, their shares change hands,
yeah.
and it was something like 51%. But
Yeah.
then by the 2000s, it was over 100%. And
Wow.
the only reason it was over 100%, so, shares just bouncing back
Mm,
left, right, and center, is because we had gotten to that stage within technology that a say, for example, a rich person's portfolio, it would be exchanging and swapping shares with different companies every 4 seconds because of based on
mm,
the stockbrokers
yeah.
technology. And that's how they got their wealth. And that's the
Mm,
thing about the shares nowadays, especially in the US, is that if you have a tangible asset like a house, if you do anything with it, you will be taxed. But the thing is, you are only ever taxed with intangible assets, with, say, for example, with shares, when you receive a dividend. Anything out of after that, in terms of shares, you're not taxed.
mm,
So potentially a rich person is self-interested enough to pour a lot of their money into shares because those intangible assets are not
mm,
taxed the same way
mm,
as consumables or a house
mm.
are.